The great chamber of the Galactic Council was the largest room Lisa Grant had ever seen. It stretched upward for hundreds of meters, with seats carved into the walls in rising circles. Each seat held a representative from a different alien species, and all of them were looking down at her. Lisa stood alone at a small podium in the center of the floor. She was 52 years old, with gray streaks in her dark hair and lines on her face from years of military service. Before becoming Earth's first ambassador to the galaxy, she had commanded naval vessels in 3 different wars. She had faced death many times without flinching. But standing here, surrounded by creatures that looked nothing like her, she felt very small. The chamber fell silent as High Arbiter Xyloth raised his hand. Xyloth was tall and thin, with skin that looked like living crystal. Light passed through his body and scattered into rainbows on the floor. He was beautiful in a strange way, but his eyes held no warmth. A holographic image appeared in the air above Lisa's head. It showed Earth, her home, rotating slowly in the darkness of space. The blue oceans and green lands looked peaceful from this distance. 7 billion people lived on that little world, going about their daily lives, unaware that their fate was being decided in this alien chamber. "Earth," Xyloth announced. His voice was cold and flat. Homeworld of the species known as humanity. After 3 years of study, this council has reached its verdict. Lisa gripped the edges of her podium. She had spent months arguing humanity's case before various council committees. She had explained that humans meant no harm, that they only wanted to explore and trade. She had promised that Earth would follow council rules. None of it had mattered. "The humans are found guilty," Xyloth continued. "Guilty of developing technology without council permission. Guilty of spreading into space territories without council approval. Guilty of building military weapons without council inspection." A wave of clicking, hissing, and gurgling sounds filled the chamber. Lisa realized these were sounds of approval from the alien representatives. They were happy about this verdict. She looked around at the faces watching her. The Valkyrie delegation sat in the front row. They were insect-like creatures with hard shells and sharp mandibles. Their ambassador was clicking his jaws together in what Lisa had learned was a gesture of satisfaction. The Valkyrie had pushed hardest for humanity's punishment. Next to them sat the Morith, beings made of soft flesh and many tentacles. Their ambassador's body rippled with pleasure at the verdict. The Morith controlled most of the trade routes in this part of the galaxy, and they did not want competition from human merchants. "The sentence is as follows," Xyloth said, raising his crystalline hand again for silence. "Earth will be placed under permanent quarantine. No human vessel will be allowed to leave your solar system. Any human ships currently beyond your system will be captured. Your species will remain confined to your homeworld until this council decides you are safe." Lisa's heart pounded in her chest. Permanent quarantine. They were going to trap humanity on Earth forever. All the progress humans had made, all the ships they had built, all their dreams of exploring the stars would end here. "You have 30 days to comply," Xyloth finished. "If you resist, we will use force." This session is now closed. The alien representatives began to leave their seats, talking among themselves in languages Lisa could not understand. Some of them looked at her as they passed, and she saw nothing but contempt in their strange eyes. To them, humans were pests that needed to be controlled. Lisa remained at her podium until the chamber was nearly empty. Her mind raced through everything that had happened. Humans had only discovered they were not alone in the universe 5 years ago. A Valkyrie scout ship had found Earth by accident. At first, the aliens had seemed friendly. They invited humanity to send an ambassador to the Galactic Council. They said they wanted to welcome humans into the galactic community. But Lisa quickly learned the truth. The Council did not welcome new species. The Council controlled them. Every civilization in the galaxy had to follow Council rules. They could only develop certain technologies. They could only travel to certain places. They could only build certain types of ships. The Council decided everything. When humans refused to accept these limits, the Council grew angry. They called humans aggressive and dangerous. They said humanity needed to be taught its place in the galaxy. Now they had made their decision. Earth would be caged like an animal. Lisa activated the hidden communication device in her collar pin. It was a small piece of technology that the Council did not know about. Human engineers had built it in secret, using methods the aliens had never seen. "Washington, this is Grant," she said quietly. Her voice was steady despite her fear. "They have condemned us. 30 days to surrender." There was a pause, and then a familiar voice replied. It was Kevin Porter, the Secretary of Defense. Lisa had known him for 20 years. They had served together on the same ship when they were young officers. "We heard the broadcast, Lisa," Kevin said. His voice was calm but serious. "The President is calling an emergency meeting. Can you get back to Earth safely?" "I think so. My ship is still in the diplomatic zone. They have not moved against me yet." "Good. Come home as fast as you can. We need you here." Lisa took a deep breath. "Kevin, what are we going to do? We cannot fight the entire galaxy." There was another pause. When Kevin spoke again, his voice had changed. There was something in it that Lisa had not heard in years. It was the voice he used before battle. "Lisa, do you remember what you said to me when we were trapped on the carrier Yorktown? When the enemy had us surrounded and everyone thought we were going to die?" Lisa remembered. They had been 25 years old, facing impossible odds. She had looked at Kevin and said 5 words. "I said we fight anyway." "That is right," Kevin replied. "And that is what we are going to do now. The Council thinks we are weak. They think we will surrender. They do not know us at all." Lisa felt something warm spread through her chest. It was hope. "I will be home soon, Kevin. Fly safe, Ambassador. And tell no one what we discussed. The Council has ears everywhere." Lisa ended the communication and walked out of the empty chamber. As she moved through the hallways of the Council station, aliens stepped aside to let her pass. They looked at her with pity, thinking she was returning to a doomed world. They were wrong. Earth was not going to surrender. Lisa did not know how they would fight or what weapons they would use. But she knew one thing for certain. Humanity had faced extinction before. Ice ages, plagues, and wars had tried to destroy them. Every time, they had survived. Every time, they had grown stronger. The Galactic Council had made a terrible mistake. They have given humanity 30 days to prepare. And 30 days was more than enough time for humans to get ready for war. 2 weeks after the Council's verdict, a secret meeting took place deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. The bunker had been built 50 years ago during a time when humans still feared nuclear war. Now it served a different purpose. It was the headquarters of the United Earth Defense Council, an organization that officially did not exist. President Daniel Hayes sat at the head of a long table. He was 60 years old, with a kind face and tired eyes. Before entering politics, he had been a school teacher and then a state governor. He had never imagined that he would lead humanity into a war against alien civilizations. But fate had placed him in this chair, and he would not run from his duty. Around the table sat the most important military and scientific leaders on Earth. General Chris Lawson commanded the Space Force. Secretary Kevin Porter ran the Defense Department. Dr. Susan Blake led the Advanced Research Division. And Ambassador Lisa Grant, just returned from the Council chamber, represented the Diplomatic Service. "Tell me what we are facing," the President said. General Lawson stood and walked to a large screen on the wall. He was 61 years old, with a shaved head and a body still strong from decades of military training. He had fought in 3 wars on Earth before the aliens came. Now he would fight the biggest war in human history. The Council can send approximately 400 warships against us within 60 days, he said. The screen showed images of alien vessels. The main threat comes from the Volcari Dominion. They have the most advanced fleet, and they hate us more than any other species. President Hayes studied the images. The Volcari ships were large and covered with weapons. They looked terrifying. What do we have to fight them with? Officially, we have 12 patrol ships and some orbital defense platforms, Chris replied. That is what the Council knows about. And unofficially? Chris touched a control, and the screen changed. It now showed shipyards hidden in the asteroid belt, on the far side of the moon, and in deep space locations that no alien had ever visited. We have 97 combat-ready warships, Chris said. This includes 22 battle cruisers and 1 dreadnought. The dreadnought is called the Resolute. She finished her trials yesterday. She is the most powerful vessel humanity has ever built. Kevin Porter leaned forward in his chair. How did we hide all this from the Council? Lisa answered from her seat at the table. The Council never looked closely at us. They assumed we were primitives playing with simple rockets. Their arrogance made them blind. They did not think we could build anything that mattered. Dr. Susan Blake nodded in agreement. She was 40 years old, young for her position, with sharp eyes behind thin glasses. She had spent her entire career developing weapons in secret laboratories that the Council did not know existed. The Council races have been in space for thousands of years, Susan said. In that time, they stopped innovating. They use the same technologies they developed long ago. They think they know everything there is to know. But we kept learning, Lisa added. We kept experimenting. We kept pushing forward. That is what humans do. President Hayes looked at the hidden shipyards on the screen. He felt a strange mix of pride and fear. Pride that his species had built so much in secret. Fear of what would happen when the war began. Tell me about our weapons, he said to Dr. Blake. Susan stood and took control of the screen. Technical diagrams appeared, showing weapon systems the President did not fully understand. The Council ships use plasma cannons and kinetic weapons, Susan explained. Their shields are designed to stop these attacks. But our pulse cannons use a completely different type of energy. Their shields cannot recognize it. Our weapons will pass through their defenses like they are not there. You are certain of this? The President asked. We tested it on a captured Valkyrie probe 2 years ago. Their technology could not stop our weapons. Kevin Porter smiled for the first time in weeks. What else do we have? Jump point disruptors, Susan continued. The Council ships use jump points to travel faster than light. Our disruptors can close these jump points in a specific area. Once an enemy fleet enters our system, we can trap them here. They will not be able to escape. General Lawson walked back to the table. With these advantages, we can win the first battle. But the Council has many more ships than we do. Eventually, they will overwhelm us with numbers. The room fell silent. Everyone understood the math. 97 ships could not defeat 400, no matter how good their weapons were. There is one more option, Susan said quietly. The Prometheus Protocol. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Everyone knew about Prometheus, but no one liked to discuss it. Explain it for the President, Kevin said. Susan took a deep breath. Prometheus is a weapon of last resort. It uses quantum technology to create an energy wave that destroys all electronic systems within a massive radius. Any ship caught in the wave would lose all power. Life support would fail. Navigation would fail. Weapons would fail. The ships would become floating coffins. How massive is massive? The President asked. We can cover an entire solar system. President Hayes closed his eyes. He thought about the alien crews on those ships. Many of them were probably ordinary soldiers, following orders just like human soldiers. Killing them by the thousands was not something he wanted to do. If we use Prometheus, Lisa said softly, the Council will never forgive us. They will see us as monsters. Every species in the galaxy will fear and hate humanity. They already hate us, Chris replied. At least this way, they will fear us too. The president opened his eyes and looked around the table. These people were asking him to make the hardest decision any human had ever made. Go to war against the galaxy. Kill countless enemy soldiers. Make humanity the most feared species in existence. But what was the alternative? Surrender? Let the Council cage humanity on Earth forever? Let them decide what technologies humans could develop, what places humans could visit, what dreams humans could dream. No, that was not acceptable. Humanity had not crawled out of caves and crossed oceans and reached for the moon just to be locked in a prison by alien overlords. Initiate full mobilization, President Hayes said. His voice was steady and clear. Activate all hidden shipyards. Begin final preparations on the Resolute and all other vessels. Move our families to secure locations. And prepare the Prometheus protocol for deployment. He stood up from his chair and looked at each person in the room. The Council gave us 30 days. They think that is a deadline for our surrender. They are wrong. It is a deadline for our preparations. When their fleet arrives, we will be ready. And we will show them what happens when you threaten humanity. General Lawson saluted. Yes, sir. One more thing, the president added. From this moment forward, we are not fighting for any single country. We are fighting for all of humanity. Every human being on Earth, regardless of where they were born, is now part of this war. Make sure everyone understands that. The meeting ended and the leaders went to their tasks. Deep in the asteroid belt, workers began loading weapons onto hidden warships. On the dark side of the moon, engineers ran final checks on the Resolute. In laboratories around the world, scientists prepared technologies that would change the face of galactic warfare. Humanity was getting ready to fight. And somewhere in the cold darkness of space, the Valkyrie fleet was already gathering, unaware of what was waiting for them. Admiral Korath stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominant Glory, and watched the stars slide past. His mandibles clicked with satisfaction. In just a few hours, he would reach the human solar system and begin the conquest of Earth. Korath was old for a Valkyrie, nearly 200 years by human counting. He had commanded fleets in a dozen campaigns against lesser species. Every time, the result was the same. The enemy saw his ships, understood they could not win, and surrendered. The galaxy had learned to fear the Valkyrie. These humans would be no different. They had a few primitive ships and some orbital weapons. His 53 warships would destroy them in minutes. Admiral, his tactical officer reported, "We are entering the human solar system now. Scanners detect no enemy vessels." Korath was not surprised. The humans had probably hidden their little ships somewhere, hoping to avoid destruction. It would not help them. Continue to Earth, destroy the orbital platforms first, then begin bombardment of the surface. The fleet moved inward, past the outer planets with their strange rings and many moons. Korath had never understood why the Council bothered with these primitive species. They should simply destroy them and take their worlds. But the Council preferred to control rather than exterminate. They believed even the lowest species could be useful as workers. Korath thought this was weakness. Some species were too dangerous to control. They needed to be crushed before they could become a threat. The humans were such a species. He had argued for their complete destruction from the moment of first contact. Now, at least, he would have the pleasure of breaking them. "Admiral, we are passing the asteroid belt." Still no enemy contacts. "They are cowards," Korath replied. "They know they cannot fight us." His fleet moved past Mars, the red planet that humans had recently begun to colonize. Korath considered destroying the small settlements there, but decided to save his weapons for Earth. The humans on Mars would die slowly when their supplies ran out. That was a more fitting punishment for their arrogance. Approaching Earth orbit in 30 minutes. Preparing weapons. Korath allowed himself to imagine the glory he would receive after this victory. The Council would praise him. Other admirals would envy him. He might even be elevated to the high command dot. Then his tactical officer made a sound of confusion. "Admiral, I am detecting energy signatures behind us." "Behind us?" Korath turned sharply. "Where?" "Coming from Jupiter's moons. Many signatures." "Admiral, they appear to be warships." Before Korath could respond, space itself seemed to tear apart. Dozens of human vessels appeared from behind the moons, where they had been hiding with their engines cold and their systems silent. They had waited for the Valkyrie fleet to pass, and now they were attacking from the rear. "All ships, come about," Korath shouted. "Return fire." The human fleet was larger than anything Korath had expected. He counted nearly 100 ships, including massive vessels that dwarfed his own. At the center of their formation was a ship unlike anything he had ever seen. It was black and angular, covered with weapon ports, and it moved with terrible purpose toward his flagship. "That is impossible," his tactical officer stammered. "The humans cannot have built these ships." The Council would have known. But the Council had not known. The Council had been wrong about everything. The human weapons fired, and Korath watched in horror as his sister ship exploded. The plasma shields that protected Valkyrie vessels did nothing. The human weapons passed through them as if they did not exist. "What is happening?" Korath demanded. "Why are our shields not working?" No one could answer. Ship after ship died around him. Unharmed. The humans moved through his formation like predators through a herd of prey. They were faster than any vessel Korath had ever fought. They attacked from multiple angles, firing devastating broadsides before jumping away to strike again. Korath tried to organize a counterattack, but his fleet was falling apart. Captains screamed over the communications network as their ships were destroyed. Some tried to retreat, but found they could not activate their jump drives. The humans had done something to the space around them, trapping the Valkyrie fleet in place. "Admiral, we have lost 20 ships. 25. 30. The great black human warship was coming closer. Korath could see its name painted on the hull in human letters. He did not know what the word meant, but he knew it would haunt his nightmares forever. The Resolute. General Chris Lawson stood on the bridge of the Resolute, watching the battle unfold on tactical displays. His crew worked with quiet efficiency, targeting enemy vessels and coordinating with other human ships. "The dominant glory is crippled," his tactical officer reported. "Their weapons are offline. They are venting atmosphere from multiple decks." "Signal them to surrender," Chris ordered. "Tell them any ship that stops fighting will be spared." The message went out, and slowly, the surviving Valkyrie ships began to power down their weapons. They had seen enough. They knew they could not win. The battle had lasted 47 minutes. 31 Valkyrie ships had been destroyed. 18 had surrendered. 4 had been so badly damaged that they were drifting without power. Chris felt no joy in the victory. He had killed thousands of enemy soldiers today. Many more would die before this war was over. But he had done what was necessary to protect Earth. That was all that mattered. "Prepare a boarding party," he said. "I want Admiral Korath brought to my bridge." An hour later, Korath stood before the human general. His shell was cracked in several places, and green blood leaked from wounds on his legs. But he stood straight and met his enemy's eyes with what remained of his pride. "You cheated," Kareth said through the translation device. "You hid your ships. You trapped us. This was not honorable combat." Chris looked at the alien admiral without sympathy. "You came to conquer our world. You planned to kill millions of innocent people. And you want to talk about honor?" Kareth's mandibles clicked angrily. "You are primitives. You do not deserve a place in the galaxy." "We do not need your permission to exist," Chris replied. "We do not need the Council's approval to reach for the stars. Humanity decides its own fate. And today, we decided that your fleet would be destroyed." He gestured to the guards, who took Kareth's arms and prepared to lead him away. "Wait," Kareth said. "What will you do now? Even with this victory, you cannot defeat the Council. They have thousands of ships. They will send more fleets, larger fleets. They will never stop until you are destroyed." Chris smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Then we will destroy their fleets too. Every ship they send, we will turn into wreckage. Every soldier they send, we will bury." The Council wanted to teach humanity a lesson. They are about to learn that we are very good teachers ourselves. He turned to his communications officer. "Send a message to the Council. Tell them what happened here today. Tell them that their fleet is gone and their admiral is our prisoner. And tell them that this is only the beginning." The officer nodded and began transmitting dot as Kareth was led to the brig. He looked back at the human general one more time. For the first time in his 200 years, Admiral Kareth felt something he had never experienced before. He felt fear, not for himself, but for his species and for the entire galaxy. The humans were not primitives. They were something far more dangerous. They were survivors, and they had just learned that they could win. The news of the Velkari defeat spread across the galaxy faster than any ship could travel. Quantum communication networks carried the reports to every world, every station, every vessel. For the first time in 3,000 years, a Council fleet had been destroyed by a species they had condemned. High Arbiter Xyloth called an emergency meeting of the Council. The great chamber that had once echoed with confidence now hummed with fear and confusion. Representatives shouted at each other in a dozen languages. The Marth ambassador's tentacles writhed with anxiety. The Velkari delegation sat in stunned silence, still unable to believe what had happened. "Order," Xyloth demanded, his crystalline form flashing with irritation. "We must have order." Slowly, the chamber grew quiet. But it was not the respectful silence of before. It was the silence of people who no longer trusted their leaders. "The defeat of Admiral Kareth's fleet was unfortunate," Xyloth began, "but it changes nothing. We will send a larger force. We will crush the humans. With what ships?" The Morith ambassador demanded. "The Velkari lost 53 vessels. Who will replace them?" "All member species must contribute to the war effort," Xyloth replied. "This is the Council's command." But even as he spoke, Xyloth knew the truth. The Council's unity was cracking. Species that had accepted Council rule for centuries were now asking questions. If the humans could build such powerful ships in secret, why could they not do the same? If the humans could defeat the Velkari, maybe the Council was not as strong as everyone believed. These dangerous thoughts spread like poison through the galaxy. And the humans made sure to help them spread. Ambassador Lisa Grant appeared on every communication network in Council space. Her image broke through security systems that should have been unbreakable. Her voice reached citizens who had never heard a human speak before. "You judged us without understanding us," Lisa said. "You saw a young species and thought we were weak. But humanity did not survive ice ages, plagues, and wars by being weak. We did not split the atom and travel to the moon by being primitive. And we will not be caged by your council." Her words hit the council like weapons. Xyloth tried to block the transmissions, but human technology was more advanced than anyone had realized. The messages kept coming. "You wanted to teach us our place? We are coming to teach you yours. Every fleet you send, we will destroy. Every attack you launch, we will answer with 10 attacks of our own. You cannot stop us. You can only decide how much you are willing to lose before you give up." The war expanded beyond anything the Council had anticipated. Human fleets appeared in systems hundreds of light years from Earth. They struck at military bases, supply depots, and shipyards. They used tactics no one had ever seen before. Captain Pete Morgan led the strike on the Volcari homeworld's orbital shipyards. He commanded the strike carrier Defiance and a squadron of 20 fast attack ships. Their mission was simple: destroy the enemy's ability to build more warships. Pete was 38 years old, with red hair and a crooked smile that never seemed to leave his face, even in battle. He had been a test pilot before the war, known for taking risks that made other pilots nervous. Now those risks would be taken against alien shipyards. "All pilots, this is Morgan," he said into his communication device. "The target is ahead. 12 orbital construction platforms. Together, they can build 50 warships a year. When we leave, they will build nothing." His pilots responded with confidence. They had trained for this mission for months. They knew the enemy defenses, the patrol patterns, the weak points in the shipyard structures. The attack began at midnight, local time. Human fighters streaked through the Valkyrie defensive grid, moving too fast for enemy weapons to track. They carried nuclear devices modified to penetrate armor and explode deep inside structures. Pete flew his own fighter into the heart of the largest platform. Warning lights flashed around him as enemy weapons tried to lock onto his ship. He was too quick, too unpredictable. He reached the platform's core, released his device, and pulled away at maximum acceleration. Behind him, the platform exploded. The nuclear blast spread to the connected platforms, setting off a chain reaction. Within minutes, 30 years of Valkyrie naval construction was burning wreckage falling toward the planet below. "All fighters, return to Defiance," Pete ordered. Mission accomplished. On the other side of the galaxy, Commander Amy Richards led a different kind of attack. She commanded a battalion of human marines, special soldiers trained for the most dangerous missions. Their target was the Morath communications hub on the colony world of Septus 4. Amy was 35, tall and strong, with a scar on her chin from a training accident years ago. She had joined the military to pay for college and discovered she was very good at leading soldiers. Now she led them into alien territory. "Remember the mission," she told her troops as their transport descended through the planet's atmosphere. "We capture the hub intact. The intelligence inside is more valuable than anything we could destroy." The landing was rough. Morath defenders were waiting for them. But human marines had better armor, better weapons, and better training. They pushed through the enemy lines and reached the hub within 2 hours. What Amy found inside changed her understanding of the war. The Morath had been communicating with other Council species, but not about military matters. They were sharing their fears. They were admitting that the Council could not win. "Commander, look at this," one of her soldiers said, showing her a translated message on his screen. It was from the Morath ambassador to a secret group of Council members. The message said that the war was already lost. Human technology was too advanced, human tactics too unpredictable. The only hope was to negotiate before humanity came for their homeworlds. But the most important discovery was something else entirely. The Council had been lying to its member species for thousands of years. They claimed that their rules and restrictions kept the galaxy peaceful. In truth, the rules existed to keep other species weak. The Council did not want peace. They wanted control. Amy copied everything and transmitted it to Earth. Then, she led her Marines back to their transport and escaped before enemy reinforcements arrived. The intelligence spread across the galaxy alongside the human propaganda. Species that had accepted Council rule began to question everything. Small rebellions broke out on a dozen worlds. Council ships found themselves fighting not just humans, but their own subjects. 6 months into the war, the Council was losing on every front. Their fleets were shrinking. Their economy was suffering. Their authority was crumbling. But Xyloth refused to give up. He called for one final offensive. Every remaining warship, every soldier, every resource would be thrown at Earth. They would destroy the human homeworld and end the war with one massive strike. 320 ships gathered at the edge of human space. It was the largest fleet the Council had assembled in 1,000 years. Xyloth himself commanded from his flagship. This time, he would not trust alien admirals to do the job. For 3,000 years, the Council has kept order in this galaxy, he announced to his crews. One primitive species will not change that. We will crush them. We will burn their world. And the galaxy will know that defying the Council means death. His ships jumped toward Earth, ready for the final battle. But the humans were ready too. President Hayes had watched the fleet gathering. He had known this moment would come. And he had made his decision about the Prometheus Protocol. May God forgive us, he said quietly as he authorized the weapon. But we will survive. The galaxy was about to learn just how far humanity would go to protect their home. The Council fleet emerged from jump space near Jupiter. 320 warships arranged in perfect formation. High Arbiter Xyloth stood on his bridge, watching the distant blue dot that was Earth. This time, there would be no mistakes. This time, humanity would fall. All ships, advance, he commanded. Destroy everything in our path. The fleet moved forward, weapons charging. Scanner officers searched for the human ships that had destroyed Admiral Karith's fleet. They found nothing. The space around Earth appeared empty. Perhaps they have fled, suggested Xyloth's tactical officer. Perhaps they know they cannot win against such numbers. Xyloth did not believe this. Humans did not flee. That was one thing he had learned from this war. They fought even when fighting was foolish. They attacked even when they were outnumbered. There was something wrong with them, something broken in their minds that made them unable to accept defeat. Stay alert, he ordered. They are planning something. The fleet passed the orbit of Mars. Still nothing. They approached the asteroid belt. The emptiness continued. Then the Prometheus Protocol activated. It began as a soft light in the space ahead of the fleet. The light grew brighter, spreading outward in a wave that moved faster than any ship could flee. Xyloth watched it coming and felt true terror for the first time in his long life. What is that? He demanded. What are they doing? His officers had no answer. Their instruments could not identify the energy wave. Their computers could not predict its effects. All they could do was watch as it swept over the fleet. Every system on every ship died at once. Lights went dark. Engines stopped. Life support failed. Weapons powered down. 320 warships became 320 metal coffins drifting in the void. On Earth, Dr. Susan Blake watched the tactical displays with tears in her eyes. She had built this weapon. She had known what it would do. But seeing it work was different from imagining it. The entire fleet is disabled, she reported. Her voice was barely a whisper. No power signatures. No movement. The crews will have emergency air for perhaps 2 hours. President Hayes stood beside her, his face gray and old. Send rescue ships. All of them. Save everyone we can. Sir, they came here to kill us. I know. Save them anyway. We are not monsters. We do not kill helpless enemies. The rescue operation began. Human ships raced toward the disabled fleet, cutting through hulls and pulling alien crews from dying vessels. It was dangerous work. Some aliens fought back even as they were being saved. Others were too injured or too weak to survive. In the end, humanity saved 240,000 Council soldiers from the drifting fleet. They were taken to holding camps on Earth and its colonies, where they received food, medical care, and quarters far better than any prisoner camp the Council had ever built. Among those rescued was High Arbiter Xyloth himself. Human Marines found him on his flagship's bridge, sitting in his command chair as the air grew thin. He did not resist when they carried him to their ship. He did not speak during the journey to Earth. When he finally stood before President Hayes in the Rocky Mountain bunker, Xyloth looked like a different being. His crystalline form had dimmed. The light no longer scattered rainbows when it passed through him. He looked tired and broken. "You could have killed us all," Xyloth said quietly. "Why did you save us?" President Hayes studied the alien who had ordered humanity's destruction. He felt anger, yes, but he also felt pity. Xyloth had been so certain of his power, so confident that the Council controlled the galaxy. Now that certainty was gone. "Because we are not like you," the president replied. "You would have burned our cities and slaughtered our children. We chose mercy instead. That is the difference between us. The galaxy will not understand mercy. They will think you are weak. Then they will be wrong. Mercy from strength is not weakness. It is the foundation of true civilization. Your Council never learned that lesson." The peace negotiations began the following day. Xyloth had no choice but to accept human terms. The Council fleet was gone. The Council's authority was shattered. Species across the galaxy were breaking free from Council control. If Xyloth did not make peace, there would be no Council left to lead. Ambassador Lisa Grant led the human negotiating team. She sat across from Xyloth in a plain conference room, far from the grand chamber where he had once condemned humanity. The change in setting was deliberate. "Your recognition of Earth as a sovereign power is not enough," Lisa said. "The old order is finished. The Council will no longer control which species may develop and which must be held back. That will cause chaos," Xyloth protested, though his protest was weak. "Species will fight each other. Wars will spread across the galaxy. Perhaps, but that is their choice to make, not yours. Every civilization has the right to rise or fall on its own. You had no right to cage them." The negotiations continued for days. Xyloth surrendered point after point. The Council would become an advisory body only, with no power to enforce rules on member species. All quarantine worlds would be freed. All military limitations would be lifted. All the secrets the Council had kept for thousands of years would be revealed. When the final document was ready, Xyloth asked for a private moment with Lisa. She agreed, though she kept guards nearby. "Why did you fight so hard?" Xyloth asked. "We offered you peace. We only asked you to accept limits on your development. Many species have accepted such limits and lived comfortable lives." Lisa thought about the question. She thought about Earth's history, about all the struggles humanity had faced. Ice ages that nearly destroyed them. Diseases that killed millions. Wars that burned cities and broke nations. Through it all, humans had survived because they refused to accept limits. "Because limits are not peace," she finally answered. "A cage is not a home. Your Council offered us the choice between slavery and death. We chose a third option. We chose to fight. And now you have won. Yes, but we take no joy in it. Millions died in this war, on both sides. We did not want that. We only wanted to be free." Xyloth was silent for a long moment. Then he did something Lisa had never seen a council member do before. He bowed his head in respect. "Perhaps we were wrong about your species," he said. "Perhaps the galaxy needs what you bring. Change is frightening, but stagnation is death." We had forgotten that. The Treaty of New Horizon was signed on the anniversary of the Council's original condemnation. Representatives from 100 species gathered to witness it. Many of them had been watching the war with hope, dreaming of their own freedom. Now that freedom was real. President Hayes gave the closing speech. He stood before the assembly, a simple human being surrounded by aliens of every shape and color. 1 year ago, they would have ignored him. Now they listened with respect. "We did not ask for this war," he said. "We wanted only to explore the stars in peace. But when the Council threatened our home and our children, we did what our ancestors have always done. We stood up and fought." He paused, looking out at the strange faces watching him. "Let this day mark a new beginning for all of us. No more cages. No more masters and slaves. Every species in this galaxy has the right to reach for the stars. Every civilization has the right to grow and change and make mistakes and learn from them. That is what freedom means." The assembly applauded. Species that had been enemies for centuries stood together and cheered. The old order was gone. Something new was being born. Outside the conference center, the human fleet held position in orbit. Soon they would return to Earth. The soldiers would go home to their families. The ships would need repairs. The long process of healing would begin, but the galaxy had changed forever. Young species on distant worlds looked up at the night sky and dared to dream of futures the Council would never have allowed. Rebels and reformers took courage from humanity's example. The universe that had seemed so fixed and controlled now seemed full of possibilities. Lisa Grant stood at a window, watching Earth turn slowly below. She thought about all the people who had died to reach this moment. The soldiers, the pilots, the civilians caught in attacks. Their sacrifice had bought freedom for an entire galaxy. Was it worth it? She whispered to herself. She did not know the answer. Perhaps no one ever would. But she knew one thing for certain. Humanity had faced the greatest threat in its history and survived. They had been condemned and emerged stronger. They had been told to stay small and reached higher than anyone imagined. The stars were no longer forbidden. The future was no longer controlled. And humanity, born on a small blue world in a quiet corner of the galaxy, had changed everything. The new dawn had begun.